So it's about time I did a deep dive into my finances to show you how I'm going to be paying for boat life and early retirement next year. So I've tidied up my spreadsheet and I'm going to be going through that with you in a moment. Before I do that, I just wanted to give you a couple of other updates. As you know from one of my recent updates, I've been working on getting my health and fitness up to a point where, I'm comfortable with doing all the work that I'm going to be having to do on the boat next year. It's going to be a fairly active lifestyle, and we're also going to be travelling around lots with the motorhome. So far, I'm about a third of the way into my 30-day challenge, as I called it, and I've managed so far not to touch any bread or starchy foods. I did have some spaghetti the other day, but no sugar products like donuts, cookies and cakes, which for some reason I'd developed a habit into eating cakes or donuts or sweet things every day, and I didn't realise how much it had taken its toll. Now I'm already starting to feel, I've been doing weights and everything else, every couple of days, or almost every day actually. I'm starting to feel slimmer, starting to feel a lot healthier. Now, some of you may not be interested in this, but this is massively relevant to our retirement plan going forward, because it's not going to be a sedentary lifestyle at all. I'm going to have to there's going to be daily maintenance on the boat, cleaning the boat. There's going to be probably engine repairs, things like that, things that, carrying batteries back and forth. There's going to be lots of stuff that we're going to be having to do. It's going to be quite physical. It's not going to be the classic retirement situation, sitting by the fire in our mortgage-free house. It's just not going to happen. So the shock I had was my wife, she fixed our weighing scales, unfortunately, this morning, or just replaced the battery in them because it wasn't working. And I jumped on it and I came up at £224. Now, normally, the most I've ever been is about £220. I think when I was kind of bodybuilding several years ago, I got to close to £230. But, once you trim everything down and stuff, I've been at £180 before, so I have fluctuated quite a bit. But usually I sit at around £110. So God knows what I was 10 days ago. £224 is like the heaviest I've pretty much ever been. So I have been up in my protein intake and obviously weight training, and muscle weighs more than fat. So that could explain some of it. But anyway, I'm feeling a lot better. And it's not just a 30-day challenge. It takes 30 days to make or break a habit. So after the 30 days, that's what I'm hoping to do, is have that habitual not eating any sugary products at all. And all that crap that's in the shops at the moment. It's full of it. Shelves and shelves and shelves of cheap crap that will just make you ill. So it does cost a little bit more to eat right, but it's worth doing. Now, before I go into the finances, I've budgeted $40,000 for the boat and the motorhome purchase, 20 grand each, pretty much. I've seen boats for 15 grand and I've seen motorhomes for 25 grand. However, some of the boats that we've been looking at are, kind of over 20 grand as well. So if we need to extend to 50 grand for the two, 25 each, or maybe 30 for one and 20 for the other, then I've worked that out in the finances and it doesn't affect us at all, really. It will make a slight difference on the income, but I can rebalance that. I can take some from where I'm putting equities to make up for the income, so it shouldn't be an issue. I'll show you what I mean when I get the spreadsheet in front of me. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. Right, here we are. I've got the spreadsheet here, so I'm just going to minimise myself down so you don't want to be seeing my face. There we go. Hopefully that's all working. Now, okay, here's the spreadsheet. I've tidied it up a bit, put a bit of colour on there. I'm in the process of trying to sort this out, so it's I've had some people saying that it might be good to make my spreadsheet available, which I may well do, but I'm tarting up all the colours and everything else, so if I do get it a bit more polished, then I might make it available. Anyway, in the meantime, so over to the left hand side, these are all the outgoings that I believe we should have going out from when we're on the boat. Now, obviously, it doesn't include council tax, it doesn't include water, gas or electric or anything like that, but I have included money for instance here, shore power, and also for Calagas bottles. I've already got 3 bottles, so that's at least 3 months worth, and I've been told they last a couple of months, so possibly even 6 months worth of gas already. I bought that years ago. All the blue highlighted there is stuff that regularly will be going out, although groceries will be up and down, but I've allowed £400 for groceries each month shopping. Now, bearing in mind, we spend probably a little bit less than that, and we have our daughter living with us currently. She's going to be moving out before we sell the house, obviously. And we've had it before where when it was just the two of us, myself and my wife, we were spending about £270 a month, maybe even a little bit less. every month on shopping. So it was massively reduced, and also the rest of our bills were reduced as well. So I think living on a boat, we're not going to be spending anywhere near that, but I've put that in there to allow for the odd meal out, just to sort of overinflate the budget a little bit, just to make sure that we're completely accounting for everything. So there we go. So that's groceries. So yeah, everything in blue is stuff that goes out will go out regularly on a monthly basis. The other stuff is kind of every now and again bills, and also stuff that isn't going to be paid for monthly. It's going to be possibly at the end of each year or the end of every 2 years or something like that. So things like boat club fees, breakdown cover is going to be on and off. We're not always going to need that. Travel insurance, we're certainly not going to need that all the time, because we won't be travelling all the time. Boat club and river fees, mooring, boat maintenance, I've put £50 a month aside for that. It may be more than that, it may be less than that. Bearing in mind where we're going to be staying at our boat club, we've got, which is, by the way, why the mooring fees are so low. But we have to do a lot of work at the club to be part of it all and get those kind of discounts. So it doesn't happen. It's not your regular mooring, if you know what I mean. It's not just a rock up, pitch up, pay your money and off you go. This is we're involved heavily with the club. So boat maintenance, we've got a lot of experts down there who can rebuild engines and all sorts of things, as I've said before. So hopefully that will be minimal. The other thing that was that's asked a lot, and I've been asked a lot when I've been over on TikTok as well, was the talking about blackening the boat. For a start, we're not going to be living on a canal boat or a narrow boat. They need blackening. The hulls need blackening. Our boat is going to be GRP, which is fiberglass. So normally you just have an anti-foul, which is once every year or every 2 years now. But we're on a tidal river, and it's brackish water. I had my bayliner in there, and I had it anti-fouled for a 2-year coating of anti-foul in 2018, and I sold it this year and didn't have any more anti-foul in all of that time. So we're looking at 6 years it was sitting in the river with no anti-foul at all, and it's just not necessary. You don't really need it. No, ideally maybe to maintain it, we will get it done. It was just really, at the time with the bayliner, it was just really, really costly to get out of the water. But where we are now, we'll be in a pool where we have access to a trailer. We can have the boat out of the water for free, put it on hard standing for free, just carry on paying for our mooring, So whereas before at previous marinas, when you get it out, you pay your marina fees and you pay for your hard standing and all that sort of stuff. Really, really expensive, and the haul out fees are kind of £200-300 a pop, and to get it back in the same amount. Whereas we'll be using a trailer with a 4x4 on a ramp, and it'll be so much easier. And it'll be free. Won't cost a penny. So yeah, the costs related to boat stuff is going to be a lot less than what it would normally be, if you know what I mean. So yeah, we've got, I've added clothing on there. I'm not going to be spending £20 a month on clothing. Absolutely not. I've got more t-shirts. I've got enough t-shirts that will last me for probably the rest of my life, to be honest. I really have. I'm not one of these people that has to have the latest fashion and all that sort of stuff. So, a couple of t-shirts every now and again, and that'll be it. And we've got warm clothes. I still do a lot of hiking. I do wild camping and stuff like that, which I've been recording on another channel over the last couple of years. And so I've accrued plenty of warm clothing. So mobiles, pay as you go. That's actually should be £30. Change that over. That's £30 because we have 3 SIMs. My wife has a SIM and I have 2 SIMs from where I've been doing deliveries and stuff. I need that extra coverage, and it's always handy. However, what we're probably going to do is we're going to be looking into Starlink, which is about £200 just to get the kit, and then you need a router, which I've got a spare router to go with it, and it's £75 a month, the mini version is, and give you fairly good broadband pretty much anywhere, and it's mobile, so we can take it with us when we go touring around the UK in our motorhome. You have to pay extra if you want to go Europe, but certainly on the boat, where we're kind of out in the sticks a little bit, I think that'll be very, very handy because there's no kind of Wi-Fi at the mooring, so that will be useful with us. £75 a month, which will take me slightly over on my surplus here, but I'm not particularly worried about it. I'll come back to that in a second. So then we've got caravan and boat budget 40,000. I did mention earlier we're talking about maybe upping that to 50 if we have to. I'll try not to, but if we do, it is what it is. The sale of the house will be 100,000, hopefully. It could be a lot less. All of this could be changeable. So, but currently pension pot 160,000. It's actually more than that now. It has been gaining, but I'm going to base it on 160, 100,000 from the house proceeds, 260 on the total, and then with various expenditure. After all the expenditure of the boat, motorhome, debts, other bits and pieces, a couple of bits we want to do in the house just before we get it on the market, and that will cost us about 63 grand. And we'll have a remainder to invest about 197. I originally planned on having a little bit more than that, but based on 197, I'll do a 70-30 split. So this is how we're going to pay for our retirement. And we wouldn't be able to do it if we kept the house. We wouldn't be able to do it if we downsized. We wouldn't be able to do it if we rented out, because we'd still have to get rid of our mortgage in 7 years, right? So that's just the way the circumstances are. I don't want to hear any more about it. That's it, right? We've got to get rid of the house. But we can't really afford to downsize and retire at the same time. So the whole thing is we're going to turn it into a new adventure, which is why I'm getting fit and healthy for it all. So we've got 197 invested. I'm going to split that 70-30, right? So 30% is going to go into equities. So that'll be 59,100, as you can see on here. That'll be in things like S&P. I'll probably keep it in the same sort of stuff that I've been invested in over the last 10 years because it's done really, really well. And the return on that is you normally would allow for 8%. Generally is this market standard. But I've been getting an average of 10% over the last 10 years, slightly more than, well, way more than that on some years, but an average of 10% over the last 10 years. So slightly more than that 8%, which is great, but I'm basing all my finances on the 8%. In the last 7 months, I've had 18% gains on my equities. I know it won't work out like that, ongoing, long term, but if I could get that would be absolutely fantastic. But based on 8%, this is how what I'm working to anyway. So we've got high yield bonds. I'm going to be, so the 70% is 30, 20, 20. I may chop and change this around because I've got short-term money market, which pays 4.2. Is not very good. There are better ones than that. There's some ETFs which do. The ETFs are a little bit more risky, but there are some that are slightly lower risk that pay a little bit more than that. So I've yet to do the full research on that. But short-term money market at the moment is gaining. It's gained me. I've got about 65,000 in there at the moment, and it's gained a tiny bit. It's gained about 600 quid. It doesn't generally fluctuate, but it certainly doesn't drop when the markets drop. Yes, the return can change if interest rates change, but again, I'm going to be on this daily. I'm going to be swapping and changing this around. It's all part of the fun. But so the split, I've done the 70% split for our income. High yield bonds, that gets me about 7%. And I've tested that, and that's correct. It works out about a bit more than that actually, but I'm basing it on 7% return. This will all be within the SIP or within stocks and shares ISAs, so there'll be no tax to pay. There'll only be fees to pay. Fees I've accounted for in my other spreadsheet. So short-term money market 4.2, and then the shares, I'm looking at LNG shares because they tend to they tend to be trading sideways. I was going to call up my IG account and show you what I mean, but they're not kind of going up, or down in any particular trend. They've just been going up and down between certain ranges. So it's been ranging sideways is what they call it, traders. And so all I've got to do is wait until it kind of drops down, which it's generally doing. It's just going up and down fairly regularly every few weeks. Catch it when it's at the bottom, buy in, and then not worry if it drops too much, because it's not like it will go up and down with the markets, but it tends to range sideways. And what's good about that is they're paying currently a dividend of between 8 and 9%. However, it's annually. So I've got to work out still how to kind of have some buffer to have the income paying me monthly from the money markets and the high yield bonds, and then try and tie that in with the yearly income with the LNG dividend. But they also pay an interim payment as well, half yearly. And then the main dividend yearly. So I've yet to work that out. But if we work it out kind of monthly income plus my wife's existing personal pension, which she's got, which is kind of like I suppose it's like an annuity really. It was a final salary payment, which was pro rata because she was part time. So we get a total there of 1,145 income, and our outgoings at about 1,078. Okay, so it's gonna be a little bit more than that with the not Skynet, what's it called? Starlink. It's going to be a little bit more than that with that going out. So what I've also accounted for is, what's going to be left at the end of this. Now, this has only got to last 7 years, right? People have asked me, what are you going to do after when you're 80, when you're too old to live on a boat? If we find, after 7 years that we really want to stay on the boat, then we will. If we don't, then what we'll be doing is my wife's state pension will be kicking in, and that'll be about £1,000 a month currently. So by then it'll be, say, £1,000 a month. So add £1,000 a month to what we've got coming on here, which is 1140. So you'd have 2,145. That should be enough really to live in a very small retirement place rented, because then we keep the rest of our money invested. The money that we've got here, the invested money, 197, that's projected to actually go up because we won't be dipping into it. Yes, there'll be fees, but they'll be more than covered by the 8% from the equities, so that will actually grow. So the idea is, if we don't dip into that, the pot could be over 200 grand, in which case if I put all of that into income generating, we'll have closer to 3 grand coming in, and then my pension after 5 years, my state pension will kick in. Now, I know there's a lot of changes coming up. They're talking about means testing pensions. They're talking about AI replacing everything. If they do abolish pensions, or they do make some big changes, especially with AI coming up, they're saying that there's going to be some major financial devastation next year, CBDCs and all this sort of thing. I'm aware of all of these conspiracies and all these theories going around. I'm aware of all of that, but I can only go with what is currently in place. And that's what I'm going with. If I need to adapt, I'll adapt. If I need to move them around, I'll move them around, So, we'll work with that. There may be something like, universal basic income or something like that, to replace it all. I don't know. But I'm working with what we've got. And if it continues like that, then once my pension kicks in, we're going to have, £3,000-4,000, well, £3,500 coming in a month. It'll be more than enough to rent a place in retirement, and we'll still have all of that money left as well, which we can either, give out to our children, or we can maybe even buy a place with it. I don't know. We'll see what house prices are like in, 12 years time. So that's the plan really. That's how we're going to do it. And we wouldn't be able to do this, of course, if I used all this money, cashed it all in, and then bought a property with the proceeds from my house, then we would still have to work. And the idea is that actually, we want to give up. We want to stop working. We want to get out of the system, ditch everything that's that you're normally tied into with and all the other associated costs with a property, and live a bit of an adventure. And that's what we want to do while we're fit and healthy. See how we are after 7 years and reassess. This whole plan is not fixed. It can change, and if health changes or something goes wrong, or what if one of us dies? This is things that we'll make sure that everything's in place legal wise, wills updated and all that sort of stuff. We'll make sure that everything's all good, so that if one of us dies, then the other one's sorted out, and vice versa. So still lots of things to think about, but financially this is how we're going to afford it, and we are living frugally. So people saying that oh yeah, you can't afford it, you'll run out of money. People have said to me early on, saying you're going to have a 2-year holiday and that'll be it, and you'll be broke, living on the streets, eating with the dogs, eating dog food. Utterly ridiculous. I realise now that's just trolls. That's all it is. It's just people who just want to have a pop. Because, as far as I'm concerned, unless I've missed something really stupid, yes, some of these costs down, this side, this column may add up a little bit, but I've also overestimated on a lot of them. The insurances I've overestimated on, the gas I think I've overestimated on, the diesel, where have I put diesel down here? Fuel, £60 a month. It might not be, especially during the winter months, if we're just staying on the boat, or it might go up if we go travelling in the motorhome. But either way, I'm way over allowed, I think, for groceries and everything else. And we'll suck it and see. If after 3 months we find that I'm spending 3 grand a month, then something's clearly wrong, isn't it? And then we'll work it out. And even if I had to take £300 a month extra on top of this income and deplete our savings, we'd still have a big bulk of money left over at the end of 7 years, because £300 a month, well, we'd need maybe 30 grand over 8.5 years to fund £300 a month extra. Well, 30 grand off of 200 is still going to leave us with way over 150 grand. Stick that in the investment generating income, and we'll be getting close to £1,000 a month, or £700-800 a month anyway with that, in 7 years' time, when my wife gets her pension as well, and with her existing pension. So the income's, there'll be plenty of income there. We might even get a residential caravan or something like that. Find some private field somewhere where they don't worry about how old your caravan is, and and have to replace it every 5 or 10 years. So, and ones with lower fees and that sort of thing. So there's plenty of options. The other thing we're thinking about is, which I'm sort of working out, is how to split my the house proceeds up. So we'll have the investment ISAs that we've got set up ready. That you can put 20,000 in each tax year. So we can put in 20,000. So of that 100,000 from the house sale proceeds, 40 grand of that can go into our ISAs. That still leaves, 20 grand of that will actually go out on the boat. But we might have another 40,000 we've got to put somewhere, and I don't really want to have to put it into a fund and share account invested, because that will be taxable when we draw the income. The gains will be taxable. But what we can't do is whack it into my SIP, as some people have suggested. Now, I've even had people saying, "Oh, well, I'm a financial advisor, I'm a financial planner. What you need to do is shove your house proceeds into a SIP." Well, they would get struck off, because what they're telling me to do will get me in jail. You cannot put the house proceeds into your SIP unless you've earned that amount of money. And I won't have earned it. We're coming to April till I sell the house. Well, I might sell it in June. That's 4 months. I've got 4 months to earn 100 grand before I can put it into. It's just impossible. Look it up. Anyone who's thinking that, look it up. You cannot put house proceeds, or you cannot put any money into a SIP that you haven't earned in that tax year, and you can't use backdated unless you've earned it in that tax year. I just want to make that clear. Just do your research and look it up, instead of spouting rubbish at me, because God, if somebody else read that comment and thought, "Oh yeah, I'll do that," they'll end up in jail. Seriously, you don't want to be doing that. So that's pretty much the spreadsheet. As I said, I'm sort of dollying it up a little bit. We've got some nice little visuals here. I'm putting that over, transferring a lot of the cells over to these little boxes so I can see it all on a dashboard, which hopefully will just help me manage the finances going forward. So I think that's pretty much it for now. Right, so hopefully that's given you an idea of where we're at so far. There's still a lot to learn, and I still continually, despite going through all of these, my spreadsheets and all my figures and everything else, which is why I'm sometimes reluctant to do it, I still get people coming back to me saying your numbers don't add up. And I realise now that they're just trolls. They're just trolling. So they just get blocked. I'm not interested in fighting with people. That come online just for an argument. I'm really not interested in that. So they just get blocked, and their comment just gets washed away. I know what I'm doing. And when I say that, I've even been called arrogant for saying that, and that I don't listen to anybody, and I really should listen to people. I had a comment the other day telling me that I should get a divorce. So if I really listened to people in the comments, God knows where my life would be. So absolute trash out there. There really is on the internet. So I just ignore all that now, and you just get blocked, basically. All I'm interested in now is just getting this done, getting the finances worked out, which I'm pretty much there, and hoping that we can spend within budget for the motorhome and the boat, and then the next thing really is the big house clearance, which we're still doing now. We're ongoing, and also the getting the house on the market and hopefully selling it, in good time, because all the while we haven't sold it, we've got bloody mortgage going out, haven't we, and all the utilities and everything else. So I'm really looking forward to just cancelling all of that. It's going to be so good. Just phoning up council tax and saying bye, we're of no fixed abode anymore, and cancelling all the utilities and cancelling all the broadband and everything else, and just having very, very minimal outgoings, which we will do, as you've seen. So yes, there's a lot more to talk about. I'll be doing further updates soon, hopefully. If I haven't already, I'll be putting up a poll as well, just to get an idea of what you are interested in seeing more of. So if you do have time, please have a look at that. I'd really appreciate it. And in the meantime, thanks very much for watching again, and I'll see you on the next update.